This is an overview of the key features of the Online Mentor training record platform. We'll start with regulatory context and the SRA training regs, which were updated in October 2011. And for the first time, there is a clear obligation on the firm to make sure that trainees are keeping a regular and adequate training record. Previously, it used to be up to the trainee to make sure this was done. Along with this, the training principles as the regulatory portfolio holder must ensure that trainees are doing it. And training records must not only be kept up to date, but they must cross-refer to the SRA's 90+ practice skills standards. And supervisors get name-checked also in the body of the regulations in terms of their role with making sure that trainees are doing this. Now, Online Mentor is a web-based platform which can come off the shelf or with firm-specific tailoring. Either way, when a trainee logs in, they get a simple user interface in terms of capturing their training experience. And this will be mainly work done on a file matter or case, and sometimes in relation to training or other professional development. If we look at the options in terms of data capture, trainees can select a particular practice area, and these can be off-the-shelf Legal 500 practice areas, as it were, or they can be tailored to specific departments, work areas, teams within the firm itself. In addition, if a trainee is on secondment, be it client secondment or at an international office, this can be captured also. And this points to one of the features of the Online Mentor platform, which is that wherever your trainee is, in whatever department they are working, and whatever office they happen to be in, they can capture their data centrally, and you in turn as managers can review that data in due course. The main element of the training record is, of course, capturing what has been done and identifying those reflections and learning points. And the Online Mentor platform provides a very simple set of fields for capturing that. But where it's unique is in terms of joining up the dots, in terms of the reflections and the narrative of what has been done with the SRA's practice skills standards. And what we have done is we've summarized the SRA practice skills standards into a framework of tick boxes, which make it very, very easy for the trainee to identify and tick the appropriate competencies once they've completed the narrative. So here in the example that we've given, the trainee would very quickly be able to find that it's to do with the research skills, and they can tick the boxes. And what you'll notice is that against the headings, against the sub-competencies, some numbers appear. And these numbers are the number of times that a trainee has ticked that particular box previously. In other words, the trainee, each time they create a training record, is being given real-time live feedback about their progression and coverage against the SRA practice skills standards. And over time, these numbers start to aggregate, and it enables trainees to self-diagnose, self-assess, identify patterns, gaps, which enable them to reflect and strategically review their progression and coverage against the practice skills standards, potentially forming a very useful platform for discussions with supervisors at mid-seat and end-of-seat reviews. In addition, if the firm has its own particular competency frameworks, for example, its own dedicated competency framework for trainees, or indeed if the firm operates departmental checklists for particular seats, for particular work areas that trainees may experience, then they can be integrated into the Online Mentor platform also. And this enables trainees to dovetail their work in relation to SRA compliance with their evidence gathering in relation to firm-specific KPIs. In other words, they are able to kill two birds with one stone. The training or the professional development area enables trainees to capture experience against the obvious candidates such as PSC or other formal training, but it's also a way of capturing experience in relation to other areas which may not necessarily fall within work done on a file matter or case, things like business development, networking, marketing events, client presentations and so forth. And this experience also, where appropriate, can be ticked against the SRA practice skills standards or firm-specific KPIs. Now, as a manager, when you log in, you get a list of all your trainees, and you can select a trainee and go straight into their real-time live training record platform. And everything that the trainee has done will be captured within, in essence, a dedicated portfolio. And entries which they have created can be reviewed either individually, or they can be printed off as one training contract record. Printed off potentially is relevant for when trainees want to sit down with their supervisors and talk them through their training record. And you'll notice that there are options in terms of supervisor engagement. So for example, a supervisor can, if they so wish, log in, review the training record online and make comments where appropriate. But the data can be accessed and reviewed in different ways. So for example, within the outcomes heading, those competencies which the trainee is logging data against can now be used as search fields. And you can see that the data is now beginning to aggregate and patterns and gaps are indeed beginning to open up. Likewise in relation to firm-specific competencies. And trainees have the ability through this mechanism to be very specific about the kind of data they're looking at. So for example, within drafting here, there are 36 entries in the training record which have ticked drafting, but only 4 of them have ticked identifying relevant options. So if the trainee wants to have a look at what they are, they tick the box, click match entries, and the system goes off and finds those specific entries. So this provides a much more forensic way for trainees to review their training record data. And in terms of how supervisors engage with the system, an obvious option is to use the online sign-off facility. And this is done very simply by clicking the link. The supervisor is then taken to a form on the website where they can select the period covered, whether it be monthly sign-off or end of seat or mid-seat. They can put the appropriate period which they are attesting to having reviewed. They can view those particular entries within a separate browser, make suitable comments if appropriate, and click submit. The system then logs that, and as a manager you have a control panel which shows you when and if supervisors have signed off their trainee journals. And for those firms in particular who have a system of signing off training records in physical form, this is a very obvious candidate to replace that. Much less admin, much more control, greater visibility. In addition, the kind of data that the system captures can be presented in useful ways. So for example, the engagement report enables managers to view how active their trainees are being and whether there are some trainees who are falling behind in terms of keeping their training record up to date. And we, in addition, on a monthly basis, will provide you with additional data in relation to trainee activity. So in summary, the Online Mentor platform is easy to use and trainees prefer it to traditional systems. It's a dynamic approach to personal development data. It enhances on-the-job learning and development and contributes to the reflective cycle. It can be used to plug into performance reviews. It offers a central control hub for managers. It's very easy to see where trainees are at, irrespective of which office they're in. Activity reports, both on the system and provided by us on a monthly basis, keep you bang up to date with where trainees are at in terms of engagement levels. And when used properly within the firm, it will ensure compliance not just with the spirit but with the letter of the SRA Training Regulations 2011. And that concludes the overview, and I'd be delighted to speak in more detail in person on any aspect of the platform.